So good morning and welcome. This is a Yin class and I've called it Loving Stillness. There's going to be a bit of a flow in here, but we're going to have some long holds where we're going to work on loving stillness, and I'll talk about that when we get there. I just want to start by saying thank you to all of you who have joined in live this morning, and also all of you who are watching at a later time on YouTube. I know it's a bit rustic, and those creaky sounds you hear are really the floor. It's a very creaky floor. And in this process of making videos, which, you know, I thought a while back I would do this, but it was very frightening for me, and it's been a very vulnerable process for me making these videos. But I've found in the process of facing that and moving through that I've found enjoyment in sharing what I love with you. So as you know, this class is a class by donation, and that means that you can make a donation for the class, or you can pay it forward. You can pay it forward in loving kindness to somebody else in your neighborhood or somebody that you know that's struggling. And another way that you could pay it forward is by bringing it into yourself and finding an area of your life where you're feeling particularly vulnerable in, and seeing if there's some ways that you can step out into it and face it, because the learning experience that I've had in stepping out in vulnerability has been quite profound and big and lovely. And as we share this practice, I would love to share that journey with you. So keep me posted on what it is you're stepping out in and how it's going. I'd love to hear. Another reason why I've decided to do it by donation is that while I've been lucky to keep a part of my income, I know that there's been a lot of people who've lost their jobs completely and are waiting for assistance, which is really slow to come in. And I wanted to make this accessible to everybody, because for me, in the moments that I have the most trouble in my life, is where the yoga practice really helps me the most to come back into center and find loving stillness, instead of that uncomfortable stillness of worry, of doubt, of all the other things that we do other than being loving to ourselves. So just keeping that in mind, and we'll talk about it as we move through the flow today. We will use a couple of props. So you want to have handy, if you have them with you. I'll recommend having 2 blocks. If you don't have 2 blocks, that's okay. You can modify the postures as you go through to not need them at all. And I also recommend having a blanket which can substitute as your blocks. And the blanket can also be used just to support the body or the back, or it can be used to cover up, because I know it is a bit chilly inside. So with that, all of that being said, I invite you now to come into a place of comfortable stillness on your mat. And take a moment to settle in and find some length through the spine. So I'm sitting on a cushion here, I've got my sit bones just on the edge of it. It just helps facilitate a taller spine. You can take your hands up or down on your knees, and with your eyes gently closed here, just start to witness how you feel within your body. We witness the breath. We witness the physical sensations. We witness the mental and emotional body, as well as the physical. And just take a moment to remember how you feel in your body here as you start the practice, so that we can notice the ways that we change subtly throughout the practice. And we start to move into a yogic breath. So that 3-part breath where we allow the abdominal center to puff out on the inhalation The breath moves into our side ribs as the breath moves up the chest, into the front and the back of the chest. We maintain that length of the spine as we gently exhale and soften through the face, the jaw, and the shoulders. And just take a couple of breaths like that. Notice again the subtle changes that take place the moment we start to bring the focus onto the breath and take deeper, more mindful breaths. I'll get you here just to gently open your eyes and take your hands either side of your mat. Draw your shoulders away from your ears, stretch your fingertips down towards the floor. And we're going to bring a movement here and a breath together. So we exhale completely, keep the tallness through the spine, draw the navel back. And as you inhale, turn your palms towards the ceiling and start to lift your hands up over the head and reach high. Exhale, turn the palms away and moving with the quality and speed of your breath, lower your hands to the floor. We're going to take another 4 more like that. And if you want, you can close your eyes. And the whole idea here is that when you're at the top of your inhalation, the hands are pointing up towards the ceiling. And at the bottom of your exhalation, your fingertips have returned to the floor. You want to keep the consistency of your breath on the inhale and the exhalation of the same speed, of the same depth. So really cultivating this awareness on the breath. Let's take 1 more. Take your hands together here in front of your chest. With your eyes gently closed and the shoulders moving away from your ears. Again, just take a moment to witness how you feel within. And we gently open the eyes, release the hands, and we move into a tabletop. So you want to have your wrists and shoulders here in line with each other, the toes tucked under, the knees and the hips in line. And we start with a gentle cat-cow. So lifting up through the heart and the tail, gazing forward on the inhalation. And on the exhalation, just a gentle rounding of the spine and tuck the chin to the chest. So as it's early morning, you don't want to go too deeply into these arches and curls of the spine. Rather, just go gently noticing how you feel. And remember throughout the practice, if anything gives you a bit of discomfort, to stop, pause, adjust. Maybe try to do something completely different that feels better for your body. So just take 1 more here, lifting an inhale, belly soft, shoulders away from the ears. A gentle rounding through the spine. And then let's move into a bit of a sway of the hips and the shoulders from side to side. And that's just going to give you a bit of lengthening here to the sides of the body. And come back into stillness, and with the toes still tucked under, Draw your hips back towards your heels and spread the toes. The toes are spread underneath, the toes are tucked. The weight back onto the heels to your comfortable capacity, and just see if you can take your hands wide and maybe drop the forehead to the floor. Grip your fingertips here to the mat and draw your shoulders away from your ears. If you'd like to do so, you can raise the gaze forward and lift the sternum slightly. And as you exhale, sink back down. So stay in stillness here, or lift as you inhale and draw the shoulders away from your ears. And as you exhale, round. Or again, you can just choose to stay in stillness. So from here, just lift the hips halfway, release your toes, take the tops of your feet to the floor and take your hips back to your heels. From here, walk the hands over to your right. So you still have your torso laying over your knees here, and your left hip drawing back towards your left heel as the left fingertips draw over to the right side of the body. You should feel a nice stretch here through the left side of the body. You can choose to stay here or pick up that left hand and place it on top of the right. That just makes it a little bit stronger. A sense here of the shoulders somewhat parallel to the floor. So there's a tendency for the left shoulder to lift as you stretch out to the fingertips. Let's take another 2 breaths here. And slowly walk the hands back into the midline of your mat. And either fold the torso over the thighs and rest for a breath or 2. You can take a moment here to witness the body again. So we witness the subtle changes that take place. If you want to add a movement, grip your fingertips, lift up the heart as you inhale, gaze forward and draw the shoulders down your back. As you exhale, fold. Now the stillness or the movement is optional. Pick the one that serves you most. We'll take one more breath and lift. If you are moving on the inhale, lift up through the heart center, draw the shoulders away from the ears, and then exhale and fold back down over the torso. Take a breath in. And as you exhale, start to walk your hands now over to the left-hand side. The fingertips coming off the mat, if that's accessible. Draw your right hip back down towards your right heel, the gaze in between the arms. Stretch to the fingertips. And you can stay here or pick up the right hand and place it on top of the left. Again, you want to keep your shoulders somewhat parallel. As you witness the stretch here from the side of the right hip, the waist, all the way through the armpit, down the arm, perhaps even towards the fingertips. Last breath here. And slowly we come back forward, and we're going to raise the torso here to come back into our tabletop. And from the tabletop, tuck the toes, realign the joints, and we just come into a bit of an organic movement. So just moving your spine any way that feels good, releasing here. Noticing perhaps the freedom you may have down the lengths of the arms or the side waist as you move. Perhaps a bit more freely than before. And again, this time with the toes tucked under, we're going to sink back through the hips, reach the hands forward and exhale. And then this time as we inhale, we're going to glide the body forward along the mat. And just lift up here into a bit of a cobra. So elbows underneath the shoulders, the toes unravel, lift up through the heart, draw the shoulders away from the ears. And take a breath in. And we follow that movement here on the exhale as we lower back down. Lift up through the navel center and the hips draw back, and just glide back to your child's pose with the toes tucked under. Take a breath in child. And again, as you exhale, let's glide the body forward along the mat. And lift up into your cobra. Untuck the toes, lift up through the heart. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. On an exhale breath, gently lower the gaze. Draw back through the navel center as you raise through the hips. And just slide back on the arms as the hips move back to your heels, forehead to the floor. We take one more like that. So take a nice breath in. And as you exhale here, glide forward on the mat. Lift up through the heart, unravel the toes. Breathing normally here, just for a couple of breaths. We'll hold this cobra, shoulders away from the ears, heart center lifted, gaze forward. Gently release, lower the gaze, sink the hips back, engage through the navel center, just stretch out here into child's pose for a breath. And then let's move back into a tabletop with the joints stacked. And from here, we'll take the left toe tip behind us. With the navel drawn back to the spine, just press back here into your left heel. And that's going to give you a nice little stretch through the back line of your left leg. So gaze towards the floor. Slight bend in your elbows, softness in the face. We take the left leg forward here. And step your left foot in between your hands. Now this is where you may want to have your blocks either side of your left foot. You can rest your hands onto the blocks here. And notice that my left knee is directly above my left ankle. You can have the ankle in front of the knee or in line with, but don't have the ankle behind. So from here, what I want you to do is tuck the right toes under and pick up the right knee. Just shuffle that right foot back a little bit. Lower the right knee to the floor. Press the top of the right foot to the floor, so we're opening up the back line of the body. And then we'll raise the torso. Those blocks can come up now onto a higher setting where you can rest your hands on them if you like. But we'll roll the shoulders back and away from our ears and turn the palms forward. So without the block, the fingertips stretch towards the floor. Or with the block, use them to support the body here. So just take another 2 or 3 breaths here, whichever variation feels appropriate for your body. We sink the hips forward and we keep the gaze soft. Now, we're going to release forward and come a little bit deeper into the lunge. So I want you to turn your left toes here to the left edge of your mat and see if you can take your hands to the inside. So if you have blocks here, it's a little bit easier. You can take your hands onto the blocks, it gives you some height. Now, if that doesn't feel good for you, you always have the option of turning the left toes to the front of the mat again and coming a little bit higher. We're going to be here for about 2 minutes this morning. So you want to be in a part of the posture where you're not holding tension in your face, your jaw, your hips. Your breath is normal. It's controlled. So you can just stay here in this lunge with the hands on the blocks, or maybe you'd like to lower down onto your forearms. And just notice here, you need to maybe hold the posture for a couple of breaths before it starts to open up. But you will start to open up here and find the length through the front of the right hip, maybe the back of the left thigh. And come back into that loving stillness. We use the breath as our anchor. Smooth, slow, and controlled. And then we try to find loving stillness. So we try to find some peace within any of the discomfort, not pain, discomfort. If it is painful, please release. And try to find a way here to love the sensation that's giving us a bit more mobility. Softness here with the breath, the body. If you like, now that we've been here for a little bit of time, you can maybe just weight down onto the right arm or forearm and rotate a little bit to the left so that the torso is now facing the left, and maybe the left hand can come onto the left thigh. And maybe take your gaze up and over that left shoulder. There are deeper variations, but today this is as far as I'm going to take it. If you know a deeper variation, you'd like to go there, please do so. We've got another minute or so, minute and a half left. So take another 6 or 7 breaths. And on your 6th exhalation, you slowly start to roll the torso back down and start to press back with the hips. I'm going to take that left leg here back in line with the left hip. We're just going to fold over it for a couple of breaths. Here you can use your blocks again to support your torso as you fold over your leg. So a sense of lifting up through the heart here and maybe bowing over the leg. And you can choose to stay here or release maybe into a prone position laying on your tummy. Or if you want to go a little bit deeper, you come into our attempted full splits. So tuck the right toes under. We start to glide that left leg forward. We start to take the legs a little bit further away from each other. Just see how far you can come down. I've never been able to get my hips fully to the floor, but that's okay. I find if I've got a little bit of support here through my hands, I can ease down. You want to square your shoulders perhaps to the front of your mat. Again, if this is too much and you need to release earlier, please, by all means, go ahead and listen to your body. Otherwise, let's see if we can find some softness here in the face and the jaw. If you're quite comfortable, you can fold forward over that front left leg. So another 4 or 5 breaths. Noticing that the longer you're in it, the more your body wants to ease into it. And then slowly we release. So the releasing is really important that we don't rush out of it. Slide the left foot back. And to release this one, just remove the props to the side, and we're going to come to lay flat onto the bellies. Stretch your hands forward, reach them away from your toes. Lay your forehead down to the floor. And then take your hands behind you with your palms turned up towards the ceiling. Reach your fingertips towards the toes. And just release your head either to the right or the left here. Gently close your eyes and take just a minute or so to witness. And we witness the sensations through the body. And acknowledge whatever arises for us, but without getting caught up in the drama of the story, just return to your breath. As you lay here, notice the belly pressed into the floor and the length the breath gives you in the lower spine, middle spine, all the way up in between the shoulder blades. Almost like the back is lifting up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, softening and surrendering. Just another breath or two. The last breath or two, make it ready to move on. Take your hands underneath the shoulders, tuck the toes. Come up onto your knees, draw your navel to your spine. Maybe just take your chin to the floor for a breath or two here. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. It's a nice way to stretch the middle part of the back. And then press down with your hands. And then we come back into our tabletop. If you like, you can sink the hips back momentarily into a toe-tuck child's pose. And they have this Taoist saying with the toes that if you have open toes, you'll have an open mind. So it is really important every once in a while to sit onto the heels with the toes tucked under to give the soles of the feet a bit of a stretch. So we come back into this tabletop with the joints stacked and the toes tucked. With the navel lifting back towards your spine, take your right foot now behind you and then press back into your right heel. And we pause here. Pause and witness the stretch in the back of the right leg. Pause and witness the ease of the breath. Letting go of any tension in the muscles that are unnecessary at the moment. And then we will take this right foot forward now in between the hands. And if you have your blocks, you may want to set them up. Right heel and right knee in line. Left toes tucked under. Take up your left knee and push back into the left heel. Shuffle the left toes back and return that left knee to the floor. So you're just widening your stance here. Unravel the left toes. You want to press the tops of the left foot into the floor. And then we're going to raise the torso. So you can use your blocks here to support you by walking them back with you. And just giving yourself something here to lean onto as you press your hips forward. If you find that that is maybe getting in the way of getting a bit deeper for you, turn the palms forward. Draw the shoulders away from the ears in a sense of the shoulders rolling away from each other as we sink low here. Taking a couple of breaths. And then we're going to release it forward. So just taking the body over the thigh here. And again, just pressing the hips forward. And if you want, you can take it a little bit deeper by turning the right toes out to the right edge of the mat and taking the blocks to the inside. And we sink lower here. Now, I always find that my left knee gets uncomfortable. So with my right side, having my left foot flat on the floor is fine, but my left top of the foot doesn't like it so much, and it seems to bother my knee. So I find for this one, I will tuck my toes under because that will release some pressure from my knee. If you feel any discomfort though, you can also put a pillow or a blanket rolled up underneath to see if that gives you some assistance, right? So I'm going to take that for this posture here. And I'm turning my right toes out here to the side of the mat, and you can stay here in the stillness or just drop the forearms here to the floor. And again, you want to press the hips forward to your comfortable capacity and a place where you can maintain ease. And that often means, checking in with your face. Because the first place we take tension is often in the face. We start to tighten up through the jaw. So see if you can soften there as you soften through the breath. You can let that right knee sort of drop out to the right as you sink lower. And if you did so on the first side, just waiting onto the left hand or the left forearm, and you can rotate here to the right with the torso, maybe taking the right hand to the upper right thigh. Maybe the gaze will come up and over the right shoulder. So there are deeper variations in this. You can catch the left foot with the right hand if you like, but this is as far as I'm taking it this morning. Please, if you need to ease off, listen to yourself. And if you want to take it deeper, of course you can. We're looking for that loving stillness, that place where we can just hold it mindfully, with loving patience, witnessing, returning to the breath. Let's take another 5 breaths here. And slowly we unravel. We're going to sink back for a moment in the hips to take that right leg now back in line with the right hip. Then we're going to extend the right leg forward. And again, you can use the blocks here to assist you in either having them here so that you can weight onto them, a sense of an arching through the spine as we bow over the leg. And that can feel quite nice for you. If you want to take it deeper, there is that option. Again, I like using blocks for this one. And we just shuffle the right foot forward and the left leg back, lowering through the hips to your comfortable capacity. And you can either take the shoulders directly above your hips here, or you can bow the right or the torso over the right leg. I find this quite intense enough, just trying to sit still and sinking into the hips here. Let's see if we can hold this just for another 4 to 5 breaths in softness. And slowly, again, mindfully release. Draw the right leg back. Remove the props off to one side. And again, we're going to lay down onto our bellies. Stretch the hands away from the head to begin with. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Stretch the fingers and the toes in opposite directions. And then take the hands to reach down towards the toes, shoulders away from the ears. Turn your head to the opposite side this time. Let go of any tension within the body. Let yourself surrender onto the floor. And again, we bring the awareness to the breath and the back of the body, particularly the spine. You can imagine here that your back is like a turtle shell, and that with every inhalation, the turtle shell is lifting up towards the ceiling. You can find length through the vertebra as you do so, and a soft retracting with the exhale. Always cultivating softness. Get ready to move on now. So take your hands forward. Take your gaze forward, and we'll stretch the left hand here over to the right hand side of your mat, underneath the right armpits. The left fingertips glide underneath the right arm. Drop the head here over your left shoulder. Now you may want to take your rolled up blanket or a block here underneath or next to the shoulder to support the head. And we'll draw the right knee up along the floor towards the left elbow or the fingertips. And we start to come into a twist. So let's lengthen the right hand here up towards the ceiling. A sense of lightness through the right shoulder joint. And then as we exhale, let's take the right hand back behind us. Fingertips may touch the floor. You may want to gaze over that right shoulder. It's one of my favorite twists. If you find, though, that it's giving you any grief for your lower back, you can always support the right knee with a block by taking a block underneath the knee. Maybe if it's too strong to stretch, you can bend your left knee and just come into a bit of a curl here, as I'm doing on the floor. And you can experiment by drawing your knees down to that left corner of the mat or tucking them really tight into the chest. So there's a couple of options for you. Both knees bent tight into the chest, midway, knees pointing down to that bottom corner. Or keeping that the right knee bent and the left leg straight along the floor. Just choose the variation that feels best for you this morning. We're here for about 2 minutes, so you don't want to over stretch the body. So I find that one of the ways yoga has really helped improve my life is what we've talked about earlier, that loving stillness. You know, oftentimes when I'm not having kind thoughts to myself, the unkind stillness, you might find yourself, you know, flicking through or scrolling through Facebook endlessly or mindlessly, or YouTube channels, or Instagram, or flicking TV programs, or it can be something a little bit more unhelpful or productive to you, maybe turning into drinking habits or drugs, alcohol. And I think that oftentimes we have this we slip into those comfortable, mind-numbing activities because we're not comfortable in loving stillness. So if you can just hold this posture a little bit longer, as long as it's not causing you pain, and whatever arises for you, thoughts, emotions, sensations, if you can surround that with as much love as you can muster, knowing that in the next 2 exhalations, we're going to release this. Holding it, loving it. Let's slowly unravel here, back onto our bellies. And the more we practice that habit of loving stillness, the more content we have or find within our daily lives. And I know that it's been a process for me. I'm far from perfect. And I often get caught up in scrolling or some other mindless activity that takes me away or numbs me from the feelings I'm having. But then I know that I have this tool in yoga that helps me reset and find gentleness and kindness within my life. And I hope that it helps you in a similar way. So let's get ready for our second side here. Take the hands again just in front of the shoulders. And this time we're going to thread the right arm over to the left hand side and take the blanket here underneath your head. Draw your left knee up towards your right fingertips. And we just start by coming into that half twist. So lengthening the left arm here up towards the ceiling. Finding the lightness in the left shoulder joint. And then dropping that left arm back behind us. Now the fingertips don't have to touch the floor. It can rest maybe on blocks, or maybe if it's too much for you, onto the hip. And take any leg variation that you took on your first side. So either a double bent knee, and you can always adjust the direction of your knees as well, either pointing up to the top corner of your mat, either vertically from the hips, or sorry, horizontally from the hips, and then maybe down towards the bottom corner of your mat. All of those will give you a different sensation in your stretch. Find the one that feels best for you, where you can cultivate this loving stillness and rest. We'll come back to the breath for another 8 calm breaths. Last breath or two here. And to release this one, we're just going to come into a cuddle position. So we're going to lay on the right hand side. Draw both of the knees in towards the chest. And we're going to roll onto our backs. Just take a moment here to adjust your body onto the floor. We'll start with the knees here slightly bent, and you can keep that cushion for the back of your neck if that feels good. You do want to have the chin here sort of parallel with the sternum. So if you don't want to have anything too high behind the head. And then maybe just releasing all together feels better. Just choose what's right for you. Then I want you to imagine that beneath your hips, here there's like a figure 8 or an infinity sign. We're going to trace that infinity sign with our hips. So I want you to take your focus onto your right back hip. And we're going to draw a line here through the sacrum down to the lower left glute. Circle up through the outer left glute and up to the top of the left hip. Down through the midline of the mat, over to the right glute. Circling up the right side, back to the top of the right of the hip. And continue in that way. So just circling through this figure 8 beneath your spine, this imaginary figure 8. It's a nice way to release the lower back. And then the next time you get to the top of your right hip, I want you to reverse it. So if you all just come now to the top of the right hip, and as you exhale here, circle down the outer edge of the right, all the way down to the bottom of the right glute. Down the bottom, circling up through the midline of the sacrum to the top of the left hip, outside of the left hip, down to the left glute, up through the midline. So again, just circling around in this figure 8 shape, imaginary figure 8 shape beneath your hips and sacrum. Just noticing how that feels. And then let's return into stillness. And with the left foot still on the floor, let's hug the right knee into your chest.
So draw your navel to your spine. We're going to half sit up here and draw that right knee into the right shoulder. Gaze forward. And then either taking hold of the back of the right thigh or the outer edge of the right foot, we're going to release the head and shoulders back to the floor, but draw that right knee towards the floor on the outside of your body. The left hand can just rest on the top of the left hip to keep the left hip on the floor. You can extend the left leg here if that feels good for you, or you can keep the knee bent. And if you like, you can just take the left hand to support you on the floor. So wherever you feel your body, the left side of the body, giving the right side more support. Drawing the right knee here towards the floor outside of the right armpit. Let's take another couple of breaths here. And then to release this, we're just going to hug both of the knees into the chest and just gently rock right to left here. Noticing how that feels for you. And then we'll take the right sole of the foot to the floor. Draw the navel back, hug the left knee in towards the left shoulder and half sit up. Release the head and shoulder and either take hold behind the left thigh and draw that left thigh outside of the torso, the left knee towards the left shoulder. If you have the accessibility, your left hand can come to the outer edge of your left foot. Just see how far you can get your foot down here. You can leave the right foot here on the floor, or you can extend the right leg long. And you kind of want to be mindful here of the right hip rolling. It will lift a little, but you do want to work towards bringing that right hip back to the floor. So you take any variations that you may have taken on the first side to assist you. You may notice that both sides of the body are quite different. You may feel more open on one side than the other. Just take another 4 or 5 breaths. And then again, we'll release the legs and just hug them into the chest. Now you have the option here just to roll from side to side, or maybe make some circles with the knees in one direction, and then after a while, changing direction. Or if you like, you can come into a full happy baby. So the hands behind the thighs, and again, the thighs wider here than the torso. The soles of the feet lift up towards the ceiling, and we're mindful to keep the hips glued to the floor. That may be enough for you, or you may be able to reach the outer edges of your feet as you draw your knees wide. Some people like to hold on to the inside here, which is okay if you want to. However, I like taking the outside. I find that it just gives me a little bit more access to get the legs a little bit lower. So there really is no right or wrong with the yoga postures. As long as you're feeling a stretch, you're getting it. And as long as it feels appropriate for you, then that's what you should be practicing. So again, we'll just take another 3 to 4 breaths here. And then we'll hug those knees back into our chest. Soles of the feet return to the floor. And we'll just heel toe the feet a little bit wider than hip distance and drop our knees in towards each other. That's going to give us a stretch here for the front of the hips. Notice how that feels for your lower back. When you feel ready, you just stretch the legs away from your body, or away from your head. You want your legs to stay on your body, obviously. But take your heels a little bit wider than your hips and let your toes drop out. If you have any discomfort here in your lower back, you can take your rolled up blanket, place it underneath your knees. If you're feeling chilly, maybe cuddle up with the blanket. I invite you to close your eyes here in Shavasana. And again, we just take a moment to witness how we feel. If there's any tension remaining in your body, see if you can release that now. We bring the awareness back onto our breath. Noticing here the lightness of the torso, the front side of the body. Gently witness here how you feel towards the end of your practice in mind, in body, and in spirit. Just see if you can stay connected here to this moment just for the next minute or two. Noticing whenever the mind drifts away from the breath onto a thought. Again, not pushing it away, just acknowledging whatever it is and returning to your breath. See if you can remain in stillness as you practice this just for the next minute or so. Slowly start to waken up through the body, making small movements, maybe circling the fingers and the toes. You might like to stretch your hands past your head or just bend your knees. And maybe hug your knees into your chest. So whatever movement you decide to take, just make them slow and gentle. Keep your eyes closed. We'll roll over to one side. Rest here in the cuddle position just for a couple of moments. And slowly come to sit up. And we'll take the hands here just in front of the heart center. And take a moment to witness how you're feeling within. On your next inhalation, raise your hands up towards the ceiling and stretch to your fingertips. As you exhale, take your hands down to your crown and your brow, your throat, and then your heart. Om Tat Sat. Namaste. And thank you. So
Thank you for joining me again as we transition now, and we've got some easing of restrictions. I know that our classes will resume probably fairly soon. But as I said at the beginning of the video, I am really finding a space of enjoyment here, sharing with you via live Zoom and also through YouTube. So I will continue to make some videos through the week, and I would love it if you would continue to join me. If you are watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe so that you know when new videos arise. Thanks again, and have a lovely day.